Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty end with minor gains after a range-bound session. The Nifty back above 24,800. Mid-caps continue to outperform. Adani Group promoters are looking to sell stake to reduce the conglomerate's debt burden. Sources say promoters may look to sell up to 5% stake each in Adani Power and Ambuja Cements. That's a CNBC Awaaz exclusive. Crisis hit Buyjus faces insolvency proceedings once again as the Supreme Court refuses to provide any interim relief. The Apex Court upholds the formation of a committee of creditors and refuses to stay the proceedings under the IBC. The government is likely to rule out any further tranches of sovereign gold bonds. Sources say the bonds are expensive and complex. The CNBC TV18 analysis showed investors doubled their money in the first 4 tranches. Some GST relief likely for Infosys, foreign airlines and shipping companies. Sources say the government could amend its June circular providing respite on taxing services imported by Indian branches from overseas head offices. Brokerages wave a thumbs up to Zomato's 2,000 crore rupee acquisition of Paytm's ticketing business. The street expects an upside of over 25% in the Zomato stock price. At least 17 people are dead and 40 injured after an explosion at a pharma factory in Andhra Pradesh. Police say a solvent leak is likely to have triggered the fire, which led to the blast in a reactor. The Supreme Court says the RG car murder case should not be politicized, even as it questions the conduct of the Kolkata police over its handling of the case. The court urges doctors to return to work, says it will ensure the law takes its own course. The doctors at AIIMS call off their strike. After holding bilateral talks in Poland, Prime Minister Modi is set to visit Ukraine's capital Kyiv amidst the ongoing war with Russia. The trip to Ukraine comes just after a month after the Prime Minister's visit to Russia. US President Joe Biden presses Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu to show urgency in sealing a ceasefire deal. 22 people reportedly killed in Gaza in the last 24 hours, taking the overall death toll beyond 40,200 since the war began. Tim Walz accepts the Democratic Party's vice presidential nomination at the Chicago Convention. Popular talk show host Oprah Winfrey makes a surprise appearance endorsing the Harris-Walz ticket. Well, let's start with the market action. The Sensex did gain over 100 points today and the Nifty added over 40 points in what was a range-bound session. So the Sensex closing above 81,000, the Nifty 24,811, and for the mid-cap index a gain of 400 points today. And the Nifty Bank added about 300 points. So that was the picture as far as the markets were concerned. The markets across the world, by the way, are awaiting US Fed Chair Jerome Powell's speech at Jackson Hole. He will speak tomorrow. The minutes from the US Fed's June meeting suggest that a majority of policymakers believe it would be appropriate to cut rates in September if data trends remain similar. Now, if the Fed cuts rates in September, it would be the first cut since the emergency easing during the COVID-19 pandemic. Block deals galore on the Dalal Street shares of Kalyan Jewellers, Alchem Labs, PNB Housing Finance, Eris Life Sciences and NIIT were in focus after their equity changed hands in deals worth 6,000 crore rupees. 6.4% of equity of Kalyan Jewellers worth over 3,500 crore rupees changed hands. Sources say Warburg Pincus is the likely seller. A promoter of Alchem Labs sold 0.7% equity to rake in nearly 500 crore rupees. Well, a CNBC Awaaz exclusive this evening. Adani Group promoters are looking to sell stake to reduce the conglomerate's debt burden. Yatin is standing by now to take us through the details. Yatin, what's on the cards?
Well, we gather from sources that Adani Group has plans to deleverage at the promoter group level by paring down stake in Ambuja Cements as well as Adani Power. Sources close to the transaction have indicated that the promoters might look to sell up to 5% stake in both Ambuja Cement as well as Adani Power. And if you remember, Ambuja Cement was a leverage buyout, so probably the creditors would be repaid via the proceeds of the transaction, which is expected to be close to 15 to 20,000 crores, depending on the size of the block trade. Obviously, the bankers have indicated that offer for sale is also one window wherein the promoters could reduce stake in both of these, group entities. When we contacted Adani Group, they did not comment on this particular story.
Thanks very much, Yatin. Now, trouble mounting for crisis-hit edtech company Buyjus. The resolution professional, the RP, has initiated insolvency proceedings against the company and set up a committee of creditors just ahead of the hearing that took place in the Supreme Court. Buyjus complains that the U.S. lenders comprise of 98% of the COC. However, the top court has refused to stay the formation of the COC and has allowed it to initiate insolvency proceedings against the company. Ashmit is standing by now to take us through the details. Ashmit, a big setback, a big blow there for Buyjus. Of course, the next date for the hearing is set for the 27th of August. Could there be any possibility of relief then?
Well, that's the next date of hearing on Tuesday. Buyjus will be hoping for some relief, but as of right now, no stay has come. The COC is free to conduct its first meeting, which incidentally is on the same day of the next hearing. So August 27th, which is Tuesday of next week, will be critical. But here's some context to it all. Just earlier this week, just 2 days back on Tuesday, Buyjus had moved the apex court, whereby they had expressed the same concern. They had expressed the concern that the Supreme Court stay of the NCLAT order could be perceived as a green light for the COC for the insolvency proceedings. That, in fact, has materialized. Just hours before today's hearing, late last evening, is when we understand the RP had constituted the COC. The reason that's significant is because the COC being constituted marks the initiation of insolvency proceedings, marks for the very first time the company falling out of the hands of Byju Ravindran as far as this entire insolvency saga is concerned. And as you correctly pointed out, there were concerns raised by Buyjus today before the apex court that is this really a fair practice given that 98% of the COC is made up by the US lenders, which in fact are the applicants in this case. This was also pointed out that the RP that has been, in fact, who formed the COC is the very RP that was sought by the US lenders themselves. However, the apex court not seeing it fit to stay the COC proceedings in any shape or form. There were fervent appeals that came not just from Buyjus, but also from the Solicitor General appearing for the BCCI, saying that at least there should be a stay on the first meeting of the COC. The apex court saying that, look, if tomorrow the US lenders appeal is rejected, the COC will anyways have to go. The COC will anyways be set aside. So no grounds made out for a stay of COC proceedings. So COC can continue, but the first meeting is on the same date as the next hearing in this case, which is August 27th.
All right, Ashmit, appreciate you joining us. The government is unlikely to sell any more sovereign gold bonds. We learned from sources that the sovereign gold bond scheme is currently one of the most expensive and complex instruments for the government to manage. The scheme was launched in 2015 to curb gold imports that had led to an increase in the current account deficit. Sapna standing by now with more. Sapna, take us through the government's rationale for pausing or putting on hold any further tranches of the sovereign gold bond.
Quite some time, North Block has not been very comfortable with the idea of the continuation of the sovereign gold bond scheme. And I suppose the reasons are pretty known by now. Of course, one is the exponential rise in the gold prices, which was not very much anticipated. This coupled with the exchange rate movement, you know, the rupee depreciation in the last 2 odd years, that has also pushed up the cost of the SGB, so to speak. Plus, the scheme, the bond scheme itself carries a lot of benefits like capital gains tax exemption, then you have a fixed coupon rate, and the other 2 factors that I've said. So all put together, this is a tidy sum as far as the borrowers are concerned. So, you know, all gains for them. But for the government, the liabilities are really shot up. If you look at the 2019 gold stock that the government was holding through the SGBs, that was worth around 10,000 odd crores, which is now shot up almost 9 times to around 85 odd thousand crores. So keeping all of this in mind, it may just be possible that at the time of the H2 borrowing calendar decided by GOA in consultation with the RBI, you know, they will most likely down the shutters on the SGB. And as of now, what we are given to understand is that there is no alternative that the government has in mind in terms of the sovereign gold bond scheme. So I suppose in future years, only the redemptions are going to continue, but no further tranches will be there.
Okay, Sapna, many thanks. Sources also tell us that the government is actively working on simplifying rules for foreign direct investment. Among the decisions under consideration will be encouraging foreign portfolio investors to shift to the FDI route once their investment in a company reaches the 10% beneficial ownership mark. The government may also bring in more tweaks in the FEMA regulations. Now, some GST relief is likely for companies like Infosys, for foreign airlines and shipping companies. Sources tell us that the government could provide respite on taxing services imported by Indian branches from overseas head offices. Timsy is standing by now to take us through the details. Timsy, why the climb down by the government?
Well, that's right. What we are given to understand from sources that IT major Infosys, 10 foreign airlines and foreign shipping lines are likely to get a GST breather on the GST demands that they have received from DGGI recently. We are given to understand from sources that the upcoming September 9th meeting is likely to tweak the June circular further on bringing in tax certainty on the services that are imported or received by foreign branch offices or head offices by their Indian branches and head offices in India. So let's see what this breather is, how this circular is further tweaked. But yes, in the case of IT major Infosys, it could bring a 30,000 crore rupees worth of relief. In the case of foreign airlines, it could be a 10,000 crore worth of relief. And in the case of foreign shipping lines, it could be a relief of about 1 lakh crore rupees. This relief is likely to bring in further ease of doing business, and sources say that currently the matter is at the highest level of examination. The circular could be put up for the Council's approval on 9th of September. Back to you.
Timsy, many thanks. Now, staying with GST, days after launching its CNG motorcycle, Bajaj Auto has sought a reduction in the GST on the segment. Sources tell us that the automaker wants CNG two-wheelers to be considered on par with electric vehicles. Electric vehicles, remember, attracts 5% GST. Sources also say that the Fitment Committee will consider the proposal soon. Currently, two-wheelers attract a uniform GST rate of 28%. CNG is a cleaner fuel and hence the consideration that is being sought. And speaking of Bajaj Auto, the two-wheeler maker has received an approval for 13 vehicles under the production-linked incentive scheme. Sources tell CNBC TV18 that it is the only company to get a nod for all vehicles that it applied for. Sources add that the approvals include both two- and three-wheelers. Earlier this week, Ola Electric said it received PLI benefit certification for 2 of its vehicles. And staying with two-wheelers, TVS Motor Company has rolled out the new Jupiter 110cc scooter, which will replace its old model. The new scooter is priced at 73,000 rupees ex-showroom and will be available in 4 variants. It will be competing in the ICE category with the likes of Honda Activa and Hero Pleasure Plus. Parikshit caught up with the CEO, K.N. Radhakrishnan, on the new launch and what TVS expects from the festive season.
This year, the rural for the first time is ahead of urban. Okay, and we are extremely happy that the industry is doing well. This festival season, I am of the view that you will see much better growth rate than whatever the 13% what you are seeing, because the sentiments are positive. We are expecting a normal monsoon this year, and we will do much better with especially this product launch. I'm expecting much better growth than the industry. If the industry is going to grow minimum more, see, so far we have seen 13%. I'm expecting much better growth rate, maybe 15%.
Well, that's TVS. Now, Dabur will soon set foot in South India with its first manufacturing unit. The FMCG giant has signed an MOU with the Tamil Nadu government to set up a facility in the state's Sipcot Food Park. Dabur will invest 400 crore rupees over 5 years, of which 135 crore rupees will be for phase 1 of the project. The move is expected to generate 250 jobs. Zomato has acquired Paytm's ticketing business for over 2,000 crore rupees as it looks to expand its presence in the going out segment. Brokerage firms have given a thumbs up to the purchase. They expect an upside of over 25% to the Zomato stock price. The stock has already doubled so far in 2024. Over the last 12 months, it's almost tripled in value. Mangalam is standing by with more. Mangalam, what does this deal mean for Zomato?
Well, the script is out. What is that? After 2 months of speculation, reportage, and the companies talking about being in touch with each other, Zomato's acquisition of Paytm's ticketing business for a little over 2,000 crore is their new bet on the going out business itself. Remember, they've announced a foray into that through their third app, which is District, which could launch anytime in the next few weeks, as per Deepinder Goyal itself. This will be their third app after, of course, the roaring success of both Zomato as well as Blinkit. So to understand what Zomato's game plan here is, how big can this be from a shareholder value creation standpoint, let's take a look at a couple of numbers. The business that they've acquired from Paytm, they had a gross merchandise value of close to 2,000 odd crores. They had a revenue of 297 crores as of FY24 with EBITDA of close to 29 crores itself. Now, these numbers imply at 2,048 crore, the deal was done at a one-time GMV and 7 times sales business, which has an implied take rate of 15% and margins of 1.5% of GMV. What does Zomato plan to do post-acquisition? They intend to transition customer traffic from Paytm Insider, Ticket New, all these apps to district and also incentivize customers to move to district. So you and I as customers could brace for a lot of offers as well. They're targeting FY26 GOV at over 10,000 crore rupees with rapid growth, which implies a 40% CAGR as well. They also see medium to long-term margin potential of anywhere between 4 to 5% as a percentage of GOV. Additionally, they say further scale will depend on newer use cases beyond just ticketing like shopping, staycations, travel, etc. Now, assuming all of this holds true and using conservative estimates versus the company's own guidance and projections, FY27, the GOV could actually be over 20,000 crore with an EBITDA percentage of 3% of GMV, telling you the absolute EBITDA could be close to around 600 crores. Now, if you just juxtapose the current deal multiples to that itself, which means the business could value itself by over 20,000 crores. That's a 10 to 12 times jump over the 2,000 crore that they've paid for this business. And this does not even account for newer use cases or further synergies and, live event IP valuations, etc. as well. Now, for normal, deals, a 10 to 12 times jump in 2 years seems extremely high. But for Zomato, it's par for course. We've seen that with Blinkit as well. From the price that Zomato paid for Blinkit in 2022, the valuation of Blinkit itself has rallied by over 20 times, with brokerages citing further upside for quick commerce as well. So the short point, the bottom line is that the street expects at least 10 to 12 times valuation extraction from District, which the management has earlier said will be their third major value driver in the B2C space.
All right, Mangala, many thanks for joining us. We will head into a break, but when we return, Tim Walz accepts the Democratic Party's vice presidential nomination at the Chicago convention, where popular talk show host Oprah Winfrey made a surprise appearance. That and more when we return. At least 17 people are dead and 40 have been injured after an explosion at a pharma factory in Andhra Pradesh. According to the police, a solvent leak is likely to have triggered the fire, which led to the blast in a reactor on Wednesday. Many employees who suffered severe burn injuries have been shifted to hospitals in Visakhapatnam. The state's Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has ordered a high-level probe into the incident. He announced a compensation of 1 crore rupees for the families of the victims. Naidu also met families of the deceased workers and those injured.
We tried to ask them, but they are telling like they are searching something. They are telling they are not even giving a little information about my brother.
What is your brother name?
Venkat Sai.
What is he doing in this company?
He is working as he's working in production department.
Did you try to call him?
I tried, but I called him more than 50 times, but he didn't pick up the call. He didn't respond at all.
Did you ask any police officials?
Just now I asked them, but they simply not giving any information and telling to stay away here.
Every time such situation happens, we give an announce ex gratia, we announce, condolences will be conveyed. But the sad part is, I've been struggling to convey to the concerned industrialists and everything to make sure these things don't occur. The problem is, if we try to put more conditions there, in the name of ease of business, in the industrial circle, they say it is doesn't give a good approach for investment, a good atmosphere. It is going to disrupt the investment atmosphere. But we are deeply committed. I think in next 2-3 weeks, I think we have to come out with a very firm policy.
The Kolkata police and CBI have submitted their status reports on the probe in the RG Kar rape and murder case to the Supreme Court today. The court, while criticizing the police conduct in handling the case, said that the issue must not be politicized. That's not all. It also urged protesting doctors to resume duties, assuring them that the recently formed National Task Force will hear their concerns. The Resident Doctors Association at Delhi's AIIMS has called off its ongoing strike after assurances from the court. The court has also pulled up the West Bengal government over the police's alleged delay in registering the case.
What is the reason why the FIR is lodged almost 14 hours after the discovery of...
Because we asked the parents, he says, we'll give a formal complaint. That's all on the record.
Second, he was the principal of the college. He should have come straight away to the college and directed the filing of the FIR. Who was he in touch with?
And meanwhile, the Bombay High Court has come down heavily on the police and the state government in Maharashtra over the sexual assault of two 4-year-old girls inside their school in the Thane district last week. The court has questioned the school authorities for not reporting the incident on time and also slammed the police machinery for not working unless there was a public outburst. The court asked, and I quote, "If the school is not a safe place, then what is the use of speaking about the right to education?" End of quote. The National Conference President Farooq Abdullah has said that his party would fight the upcoming Jammu and Kashmir polls in alliance with the Congress party. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge and leader Rahul Gandhi met the Abdullahs at their Srinagar residence earlier today. While the seat-sharing agreement is yet to be disclosed, the National Conference chief said the alliance will contest in all 90 seats. Congress workers staging protests across India over the Adani Hindenburg controversy. The Congress party demands the resignation of SEBI chief Madhavi Puri Butch, who was named in the latest Hindenburg report. The parties also demanded a joint parliamentary committee probe into the accusations. Hindenburg had accused the SEBI chief and her husband of owning stakes in offshore accounts allegedly used for investments in the Adani Group companies. SEBI chief had denied those charges. Prime Minister Modi met his Polish counterpart Donald Tusk today, who welcomed him with a ceremonial red carpet. This is the first trip by an Indian Prime Minister to the country in 45 years. Modi and Tusk held bilateral talks in the hopes of giving a fresh momentum to the India-Poland partnership. The Prime Minister will also visit and meet with Polish President Duda, post which he's set to travel to Ukraine to meet with President Zelensky. The visit comes just a month after the Prime Minister's state visit to Russia. US President Joe Biden has pressed Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu to show urgency in sealing a ceasefire deal in Gaza. Biden spoke to Netanyahu over the phone on a day when 22 people reportedly killed in Gaza. The overall death toll has now crossed 40,200 since the war began in October last year. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has formally accepted the Democratic Party's nomination as Kamala Harris's running mate ahead of the November U.S. presidential elections. A military veteran and a former teacher who also coached a high school football team, Walz rallied support for Harris and said they are the right team. Television icon Oprah Winfrey addressed the crowd at the Democratic Party's convention, urging voters to choose common sense over nonsense. She also hit back at the Republican Vice President candidate J.D. Vance for calling Harris a childless cat lady.
You know, you might not know it, but I haven't given a lot of big speeches like this. But I have given a lot of pep talks. So let me finish with this, team. It's the fourth quarter. We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball. We're driving down the field. And boy, do we have the right team. Kamala Harris is tough. Kamala Harris is experienced, and Kamala Harris is ready.
Let us choose. Let us choose truth. Let us choose honor. And let us choose joy. Because that's the best of America. But more than anything else, let us choose freedom. Why? Because that's the best of America. We're all Americans, and together, let's all choose Kamala Harris.
That's Oprah Winfrey then. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. More news and updates will continue right here on CNBC TV18. Stay tuned. We're back in a moment with more.